Good evening. It's a great pleasure. Uh, we are. I'm going to invite our president, Vishwas Kulkarni sir, to introduce this evening and to welcome all of you.
Good evening, everybody. It gives me a great pleasure to be here and for this first program of ISA 50 years. ISA is instituted in 1970 and it's completing 50 years this year. So we at the executive committee meeting are arranging several programs this year throughout the year, and I welcome you all to attend all the programs. Now this first program from the Opolis well-known architects is certainly a pleasurable one. And SI is also planning many activities in terms of lectures, presentations, exhibitions, workshops, and many other things. And we have got some ideas what to do, when to do. But I welcome all suggestions from all the members if they have got any, which will be very useful for EC to execute. And I promise you that every suggestion will be really looked into in depth and will be considered. And please enjoy the presentation of the renowned architect. And I now give it to again Kushru to continue.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for coming. This is the first of. We want to do a monthly talk series and monthly event series leading up to March 2020 when we are going to have when we'll be marking 25 years of the ASA Awards. It's a special, we are really happy to have Sonal and Rahul here today. I'll be introducing them shortly, but firstly I want to thank our sponsors. We've been, the EC has been, the executive committee has really been trying hard to bring sponsors on board, and we are really grateful to them. So please come in. Is the Fundamax team here as well? Yeah, hi, thanks. Okay. So we've got two of our sponsors here today. We've got Gaurav and Rahul and Rohit from Fundamax. And Fundamax is a leading manufacturer of architectural products for interior and exterior applications. They're an Austrian company. Their exterior grade panels are use high pressure laminates and are easy to install for all kinds of exterior applications, facades, balcony claddings and gates. They have several options. Their partner in Pune is Real Marketing. It's a 30-year-old firm at Timber Market, and I'm sure you can connect with them and use their products. Thanks so much for supporting us, and we appreciate it. Our mobility partner is BU Bhandari. Thank you so much to Mr. Vinay, and thank you. Thanks to Fundamax as well. And Gaurav and Amardeep for coming here and having the store. The BU Bhandari group has grown over the years in Pune and is a name synonymous with quality and integrity. They are now representing three top global brands in the mobility industry: Volkswagen, Triumph Motorcycles, and now MG, Morris Garages from the UK. They have state-of-the-art retail facilities in Pashan, on Van Garden Road, and a 3S facility at Parkard. Thanks for supporting us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the first of our talks this year is from Opolis. We also have in our lineup Pinkish and Shilpa Shah from Bombay from S&PS Architects. We have Banduk Smith Studio, we've invited them from Ahmedabad, and we have mobile offices, Shantanu Reddy and Manisha Agarwal. These are people who we've not planned too far ahead because, as you know, scheduling is a challenge, and so we've lined up 3 talks so far, and we're hoping to have them in the coming months. Architects Rahul Gore and Sonal Sancheti started Opolis, a multidisciplinary design practice, in January 2001. Bringing their individual aesthetic strengths, technical expertise, creative inclinations, and artistic vision to the table, the duo has made Opolis one of the leading architectural firms in the country. Opolis believes that design should be timeless, which, while fulfilling a client brief, also go beyond it. A design should stand the test of time, style, and trends. Each client is important and special to the firm and deserves attention and time, and that's why they take on only a limited amount of work and to ensure complete focus and involvement. Opolis has won numerous awards, including the AD Awards, IIA Awards, IIID, A+D, and the JK Cement Awards in the last several years. They have recently won the Construction World Architect and Builder Award as one of the top 10 young architects of India. Their work has been widely published nationally, internationally. The Bihar Museum was recently completed and was won as an international competition along with Maki and Associates from Tokyo. Sonal Sancheti has studied at CEPT, Ahmedabad, and has a master's degree from SIAC in LA. Rahul also studied at CEPT in Ahmedabad and did a master's in urban design from UCLA. Sonal, Rahul, thank you so much for coming.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Aisa, for having us to come and give a talk. It's always very special for me, especially to come back on home ground, and always very much more pressure to speak to the crowd in Pune. So, thank you, and thank you, Kushu, for getting us as the first speakers to start the 50th year series of lectures. So we've titled our talk Reflections and Conversations, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. I'll begin with introducing our team. Opolis, the meaning of Opolis, which people usually ask us, what does Opolis mean? I always kind of say that O means respect in Japanese, and polis means the city or the built environment, and Opolis means whatever we build should be with respect to the built environment. We are a team of 15 people, and it's our studio in Mumbai. We do work pretty much across India, and right from a small 400 square feet office to a 4 lakh museum that we recently completed. And so the energy between the different scales of projects is something that we really enjoy in the office. Actually, if you look at it, architecture is really the sum of past experiences. And if we look at just our education at CET or the travels that we've had and look how it's influenced us, be it our undergrad thesis, for me it was on Japanese architecture, and for Rahul had studied the work of Nari Gandhi for his undergrad thesis. And unknowingly somewhere, I think it's definitely had a deep influence on our work. So when we think about architecture, images come into our mind. Many of these are connected with our training and work as an architect. They contain professional knowledge about architecture that we have gathered over years. Some of the other images have to do with our childhood memories or our travels, or sometimes even a combined and a beautiful layering of all of the above. Architecture surely is the sum of all our past experiences. So, Kushu said a bit of this, but I would like to repeat what the studio really believes in. Whatever we design must be of use, but at the same time transcend its use. It must be rooted in time and site and client needs, but it must transcend time and site and client needs. We do not want to develop a style or specialize in any kind of projects. It is our hope to continue to work only on a few projects at a time with intense personal involvement in all parts of design and construction. We want the studio to be a good place to work and learn and grow, both for the people who work in the office and for ourselves. I would like to add over here, it's very important that we would like to be financially stable, but this will never outweigh the artistic or the ethical belief, which will always be and come first for us. The work should reflect optimism and love. The spiritual aspect of the work will emerge if the work is done well. If we look back in the last 18 years of the kind of work we're doing, we primarily can categorize our work into 3 different zones. A major part of our practice involves homes and weekend homes that we've done. these are, we've been fortunate to really build in some amazing landscapes, and we literally think that each of these projects is like having a dialogue with the landscape. Being in Mumbai, we do a lot of interior projects, or you can call some urban inserts in Mumbai and Pune, and that we kind of want to call as dialogues within the city. And the third part of our talk is to do with the dialogues with the urban scape, which deal with the bigger projects that we have been working with, some competitions that we've done, and the BR Museum. So today's talk will be mainly in these three categories. So this is our first project in Pune, which is in Khadakwasla. It's called House on the Ridge, and always very special to our heart. The presence of certain buildings on certain sites has something secret about it. They seem simply to be there. We do not pay any special attention to them, and yet it is impossible to imagine the place where they stand without them. They almost appear to be anchored in the ground. They make the impression of being a self-evident part of their surrounding, and they seem to be saying, I am as you see me and I belong here. So it's really important for us that whatever we build in this landscape just feels as if it just belongs there forever. It doesn't like to overpower the site that it's built on. The most important part of a project for us is the siting of the building on the site. I think some of the projects are just made and they look as if they're just emerging from the site. But the process to achieve this is a rigorous process through various models and sketches, and that takes up the most amount of the time. Any of this, the initial part of the time that goes into any project, I think this is the most important part and most exhaustive part of the project. I think this is getting washed out a bit, but basically this is a project which is on the top of the mountain, and the story here is actually the whole project. When we started off, it was designed to be located here with a whole foreground, and this is a weekend home for my parents. And actually on the day of the puja, when the work was ready to begin, my father, the client, the most difficult client, said that no, I think the location doesn't feel right. And this was our first project, full of excitement, and this happens on the first day the project is ready to begin. And finally from here, we had to move it here, but that involved complete redesigning because it's on a contoured site, and obviously when you move the location, everything changes. But in hindsight, I think it really worked out for the better when I look back, and it really kind of, the way this project came about, it was for the best, I think. So buildings that have a strong impact always convey an intense feeling of their spatial quality. They embrace the mysterious void called space in a very special way and make it vibrate. At the moment of its creation, architecture is bound to the present in a very special way. It reflects the spirit of its inventor and gives its own answers to the questions of our time through its functional form and appearance, its relationship with the other works of architecture, and the place where it stands. So it's basically just a pavilion that we created and anchored to the site, which has beautiful views. And actually this photograph always makes me think why we as architects really love to take pictures without people in it, when it's really designed for people finally. And what amazes me is how kids really end up using all these spaces that we create. We design it with certain things in mind, but I think what is most interesting is how kids really occupy these spaces in their own creative ways, and that always is something that excites us. So what we believe in is, like, we should really build less, build on less, build robust and durable, build interim and in phases, build as per need and not as per greed, build with the inside and the outside in mind, build light and slender, and most importantly, built to appeal to the senses. We do not claim to know what space really is and how it comes into being. It's almost like we're creating a destiny for each site. It's almost like when we build something on a certain site, it's like we're deciding the destiny of that site with our intervention. Each project is destined to have its own dialogue with the site. The longer we think about it, the more mysterious it becomes. We are concerned with but a tiny part of the infinity that surrounds the earth, and yet each and every building marks a unique place in this infinity. So changing scales from the house in the ridge, this is a very recent project we've done in Khandala on a very small site of about 10,000 square feet in Khandala, which means it's the region that you all know with a lot of rain. And the most important part in all these sites is the rain that we need to take care of. And since the site had one wall it shared with its neighbor, and the view mainly was from this side, from the northeast side. So, and there was a difference of about 2 meters from one end of the site to the other end, 2.5 meters. And so what we really kind of thought we could do is just create a plinth and just a roof over it. So that's all we did. And we kept questioning ourselves on how can one innovate with materials, with design and thought. How can one create a world which is just unifies the inside and the outside with absolute minimum intervention. The design process is based on a constant interplay of feeling and reason. The feelings, preferences, and longings and desires that emerge and demand to be given a form must be controlled by critical powers of reasoning. But it is our feeling that tell us whether abstract considerations really ring true. All said and done, the client, the end user is really the most important, and we strive hard to create these moments for them to cherish. Architecture is not just the expression of an architect's own interest and ideas. It must give satisfaction to the investors, the users, the visitors, and the society at large. So this is just a simple kind of a project that has a plinth and a roof over it with absolutely no civil walls, and the veranda is literally the outdoor living room that connects to the view. These are some of the internal spaces. Here one sees how the roof just comes down and becomes the wall, and the same roof encloses space on the more public side by the use of the levels. The house literally uses the drama of water during the rains through certain prominent elements that one sees here. A few things that we really thought that we kind of innovated in this was the roof structure that uses 4 mm steel plates to create double angle rafters that are usually very light, and instead of using the standard box sections, and this has really minimized the use of steel by almost 50%. The 75 mm thick Vasco board used as an innovative 50 mm thick, it's like a 50 mm thick honeycomb paper sandwiched between 12 mm marine ply and is used as the main roofing element. This can literally span about 1.2 meters to into 2.4 meters, and it visually reduces the steel supporting the roof and provides adequate sound and heat insulation. Over this is the zinc roof that we have used. The third kind of an innovative thing what we thought we did was we used aluminum window frames with teak wood shutters to get the aesthetics of the wooden look that we wanted for the windows, but in a very economical way by using the aluminum frames. The superstructure of the house is completely made up of steel and 50 mm thick aerocon panels along with the aluminum frame window fenestrations. It was a very fast and lightweight construction process. The next project is kind of the next project is also in Khandala, but I would say it's in a context which has literally it's in a tight bungalow society which has bungalows on both its sides. So the site is literally introvert site and it creates its own world within it. So this is a third kind of a site where the context is really almost like a blur, and how a simple kind of an idea of just overlapping volumes with a common space in between as a connector is used. It's almost like the most beautiful and complex solutions are the simplest ones. In an architectural scheme, both in plan and section, the simplicity will not come to us from the brief. It is a product of patient research and persistent process that can lead you to it. And if simplicity is something, there's a very fine line between something that's banality and simplicity, and the line between this is quite blurred, I would say. But every aspect of design is questioned and revisited to evaluate its need. This involves a stripping down process, a very conscious effort, and ultimately culminates in giving simplest solutions to a very complex design issue. Also, constantly there's a striving to create moments in these spaces, trying to create experiences and literally build memories for our end user. And when you have a context as a blur, what does one do? It takes simply some clues from the existing trees on the site to really articulate the steel columns and respond to the site trees, and just play with the roof that becomes a very dynamic roof across the house. So what we call a good design is one which achieves integrity, that is unity or wholeness in a balanced relationship to the environment. What we as architects really, both Rahul and me, what the projects we like the most is really building in these beautiful sites and building something out of nothing, something that doesn't there, and build something out of nothing. And then the whole process that goes through a lot of models and sketches in the office. And then the most difficult part is the construction phase, which is the most challenging and frustrating and demanding. But I think in the end, the result is something that is totally satisfying. We believe that architecture is best when it's an honest expression of the people and institutions it serves, when it interacts gracefully with its surroundings, and when it has an understated dignity based on being true to location and project requirement. This is a project that we've done in Panshet, very close from here. The site is again a very deeply contoured site, and the project just kind of modulates its way through the site and just sits there as a response to the contours, I would say. With the back, it has a back retaining wall, which is a laterite wall. It has a plinth which is with the black stone, and a off-white sandstone that becomes the flooring, and with a mango tile roofing. What is kind of very important is the idea of subtraction. I think creativity as an idea of subtraction rather than addition, and just going on removing the unnecessary and keep asking, every time we are doing something, the most important question we keep asking ourselves is this necessary? So at this point I would like to quote Giovanni Palasma. A profound design process eventually makes the patron, the architect, and every occasional visitor in the building a slightly better human being. Architecture is always concrete matter. Architecture is not abstract but concrete. A plan, a project drawn on paper is not architecture but merely a more or less inadequate representation of architecture. It's comparable to sheet music. Music needs to be performed, and similarly, architecture needs to be executed. It's really not only about having this n number of ideas, but it's about making these ideas happen. And we really believe that it seems impossible until it's done. And sometimes it's the imperfection in things that is fine. There is beauty in imperfection, but we keep trying, and hopefully the mistakes get kind of rectified or learned from in the next project. So improving with each project we try improving. And if you see all the 4 projects, the most important, because they're all in the same region, the roofs, if you see, is very important, and the way they sit in the landscape, and that's what we are saying is the dialogue with the landscape that they have. Thinking in images when designing is always directed towards the whole. By its very nature, the image is always the whole of the imagined reality. Wall and the floor, ceiling and the materials, the moods of light and the color of a room, for example. And we also see all the details of the transition from the floor to the wall and from the wall to the window, as if it's literally like you're watching a film. All the design work starts from the premise of this physical objective sensuousness of architecture and of its materials. To experience architecture in a concrete way means to be able to touch, to be able to see, to hear and smell it. These literally add life to every building we make. Every building has an energy, a kind of an aura, and I think we truly believe that every building has a soul actually, and if that soul is missing, something doesn't feel right. So each of the projects, the attempt is to create a soul for the project, and that's what finally I think it's about, the energy that you feel once you are in any of these projects. The interior space almost feels as a part of an exterior, and how the whole of the exterior is invited to be part of the interior. It's very important. It's kind of based on an idea of the borrowed landscape, and how the interior space it's a very Japanese concept where the interior space borrows the whole of the outside and invites it into the inside. I'm sure all of you are architects and engineers, but you all will understand that to modulate this space, the detail that goes into the roof or the fenestration, the lightness of the sections, the way the windows are put together, so the details that go into each of the project is immense. We believe that buildings can be accepted by the surroundings only if they have the ability to appeal to all our emotions and minds in various ways. We appeal for a kind of architecture of common sense based on the fundamentals that we still know, understand and feel. We carefully observe the concrete appearance of the world and in our buildings we try to enhance what seems to be valuable, to correct what is disturbing, and to create anew what we feel is missing. But most importantly, keeping the dialogue with the landscape going. And what we really truly believe as architects is that we are the ones who translate dreams into realities. And that's what is our dialogue with each of these sites that we deal with. The next part of the presentation, I think Rahul, you want to take.
Thank you. So like Sonal mentioned, we of course working from city, and I think one likes to be within an urban scale. but you tend to kind of start looking interior a lot more. And our cities are not really giving us stuff, so we make our own cocoons. Everybody's just going somewhere, coming back and living in that space. So I think that's the kind of dialogue that one works with. And one would like to, I'll show a couple of projects. There's some that are, it's an insert into a urban fabric that's very dense. It's an existing building which has been kind of being gutted from inside, completely redone, and then hopefully we'll even be able to look at the elevation eventually, the facade. This is in Kamla Mills in Lower Parel. It's an existing building, but we are called in to everybody around them is building the world towers, and the area is all getting upgraded. So this building, they needed a fresh look at it completely. So what we looked at was, it started with just looking at a couple of floors first, but it has kind of 10 floors with 8,000 square feet floor plate as a typical floor, but out of which a few floors have a 12,000 square feet floor plate. So the idea was there are automatically terraces created, and how do you program a building? So we worked with them to kind of program their spaces in such a way that those terraces get used. We also looked at a new air conditioning system where we're looking at radiant cooling, but not through the floor or through the shell as conventionally done, but only through ceiling, and use that as an aesthetic. So that was the idea. And also solve their service requirements, which they required a dumbwaiter that we inserted to take care of all their service needs, besides the elevator that is there currently. So that's the building. I'm afraid this section is getting washed out, so I won't go much, but I think what it does is you'll see there are these two spaces where we inserted a double-light space within an office existing building. There's one for the entrance and one at the second and third floor levels. There are two terraces at the first floor which takes all the public spaces, and at the fourth floor for the office staff where we've created a cafeteria and a gymnasium, and then a terrace space which will become a pavilion space for the client interaction and team building exercises. So that's the lobby. But where we stand today is we've done a couple of floors. So this is the ground floor which is not yet completed, but it's in process right now. But then we started off with the public functions, which is the first floor. So this was creating a complete conference and meeting center. So we've used a palette that's a little different than conventional offices. And you'll see these fins in the ceiling, so which are actually the air conditioning. And they are cooling the space without actually air being thrown in. So it's only humidity that one has to take care of. And that's primarily it's been a successful exercise in cutting their energy demands. So these are spaces outside the meeting rooms. They're a little bare right now because the artwork is yet to come in, but I think that's in the process. And then there was two floors that we kind of connected where they had their sales and marketing teams sitting. So they needed to communicate and interact a lot. So we created a void and inserted the staircase with the skylight as the terrace space above. So in Bombay, to give up floor space was quite a challenge convincing the clients, but I think they bought the idea and it's working very well. The team interactions have increased with this, and they're finding this as a space for the town hall meetings where they can have almost around 200 people, 300 people standing around the space. And then the main office floors itself are got these fins in the ceiling, which are actually, it's an aluminum extrusion which has chilled water running through it. So the water which normally in air conditioning would be running at 3 or 4 degrees centigrade, it's running at 14 degrees centigrade. And that's saving in energy is substantial. Besides that, the duct sizes have reduced from straight away to 15%. That allowed us to get a higher ceiling height. So I think there were various factors that helped. And getting the clients again to buy into this idea by putting chillers on the top where they had an earlier distributed flow-wise system. We worked with them in setting these things up. And then these are some of the management spaces. The two main director rooms. And then the fourth floor has a cafeteria and a gymnasium, which connects out to one of the terraces. And then every floor, the typical floors have this kind of a social space where one can meet, interact. So these become their meeting spaces, which is the lift lobby of each floor. And then a pavilion on the top, where the idea is to kind of make a multi-use space where they can have movie screenings, training sessions, meetings, client entertainment, etc. So, I mean, of course, we're dealing with the built environment, but in Bombay, open space is very prime, and we had an opportunity to work on in Shivaji Park, which is to me amongst the greatest urban spaces, primarily because it is policed by the people around, and there are no encroachments whatsoever. So that was a challenge, but we realized in the study that we had to do a master plan for the area, and as a part of that, we identified a small stretch which had a garden, a public municipal garden, which we kind of redid. Treating the edges was very important. Keeping the transparency in Shivaji Park from the road to the buildings to the ground, and we worked around that idea. But essentially to create a place of pause for the people of hectic Bombay. Another opportunity is we got to do a public library in Delhi. One sees a beautiful garden, and they had an existing gymnasium structure in there. So we tried to kind of work with that, but elaborate it and make it extend it into a pavilion that could work as a library. So we essentially the pavilion sits on the top. It has a screen that interacts with the outside and a secure space for the books. Sorry, the drawing is getting washed out completely. So. Yes. Yeah, so there's a pavilion, so the lower part of the building existed as a gymnasium. Of course, we had to put in new structures, so we built in retaining walls from within the space and have built the top floor as a new thing. This is undergoing. But again, it's a place where the conversation in the city, where you can, it's a garden, but the possibility of doing a pavilion within that. And we've articulated it with a lot of detailing for bamboo, as a screen that could interact and be the kind of face of the building to the garden. So there are plinths that surround the building, and those are used for book readings and be able to for children to play around. Also, as part of this, I mean, we worked with interiors. This is a showroom we've done in Ahmedabad, which had an interesting kind of an idea where it was for displaying products, but the products were located in these kind of islands. So we call it a destination and a journey. So the place where the products would be exhibited is the destination, and it sits within this field of a journey. And how does one kind of integrate their company's theme was art meets engineering. So he said let the journey part of it contain art, and essentially create a gallery space where they could integrate art related to their product or away from their product, and then have destinations where their products are displayed. So it also had 2 floors. They had another brand of their own on top. So we kind of tried to link up the 2 floors with the volumes that were placed in the destinations, what we call the destinations. So that's a plan of the lower space. Here you see the destination cubes, and then the rest of the part is basically left for art and for experience. So a sensory journey with unique destinations is the key. The shell is quite rough. It uses concrete, it uses grey paint, it uses metal, it has brass strips, and then the destination cubes itself are very well finished. You use mirror, there's a tinted mirror along with stainless steel detailing. So this is one of the destination cubes where you're inside. So the contrast by playing up the rough materials with the finished materials, I think that was the key. The space. So also I think working within cities, this building is not very far from where we are right now, and it's for the symbiosis. There was an idea of creating a campus. They wanted a lot of program on a very small type, 20,000 square feet plot. So there were classrooms and hostels, but trying to put them into independent buildings hardly left any floor plane. So what we did is we kind of layered it in section, and for that we had to first study the program and abstracted down. So there were classrooms that were 300 square feet and the rooms above for the hostels, which were also 300 square feet. These were stacked one above the other in a section that with 2 levels of parking and 3 levels of classrooms, and then about that 7 floors of hostel. So that enabled a good flow plate. But I think the more importantly for us was the idea, creating the idea of campus, an urban campus within the small building. So the ground plane is very important. So it was kind of recreated, whatever we lost on the ground was recreated in the atrium spaces, and this atrium moved at various levels, enabling people to move up gradually. And that left the main staircase and the lift core free for the hostel students. So you see this out, and this atrium was then flooded with a lot of light. Last, what we're calling dialogues with the urbanscape. In this, I just want to say that the scale of the project changes, and we show the Bihar Museum project, which was a public competition that we participated in along with Maki and Associates from Tokyo. There were, we've been in our practice, we've in the last, from 2011 to 2017, done actually 5 competitions where it's been of an international nature. And that's the Bihar Museum, then the Nalanda University, the Bhaudari Art Museum in Mumbai, the Amravati Capital Complex, and the Science City in Patna. So I think all these competitions, to be successful, some are successful, some are not, and that requires a good culture within India to kind of develop work through competitions. It's internationally a very mature way to procure projects. It's great because young firms get opportunities to participate. It creates a level playing field once everybody is shortlisted. The best design should win ideally. And new ideas and opportunities for a new architecture can emerge out of this. I think this is good. A competition of this nature works if there's a good design brief. That's very important. The client has to make that effort to set up that brief. We've seen competitions falling apart simply because after they see the design, they realize, oh, this is not what we had. It's not, our requirements are not listed down. So that's important. A fair jury is very important. A jury report or a recommendation is very, very important to make sure that the jury's responsibilities are carried through. And we've seen occasions where this has not happened. And due to that, it creates a kind of a bad playing field for the architects. And of course, a committed and a trusted client who believes in their conviction that what they've chosen, they've worked with, what they've set up, the brief, and to see it through. So the Bihar Museum had these 4 points working for it, and I think that was important. Is there a glass of water? Oh, yeah. So this was an international competition where there were 5 architects. Maki and Opolis were one of them. There was Snoheta Libiskin, Daniel Libiskin, Snoheta from Oslo, Libiskin from the New York office, Coop Himmelblau from Austria, and Maki from Tokyo. This competition essentially was possible because I had worked in Maki's office way back in 1998. And we had set up a good working relationship with the people in the office, and there was trust. So I think a collaboration to be successful needs trust, and that's a primary factor if 2 people have to come together and work for a project. I think what this Bihar Museum has done, this image you can see, it's a 13-acre site sitting within the city, and that's the Ganges River in the background. But the potential for an urban regeneration that this project can do is tremendous, and we've seen that happening. I've been going to Patna. The first time I went, I think it was easily 20 years behind the rest of India. And now when you go, you still feel it's still behind, but maybe it's catching up. You know, the gap is narrowed down to around now 10 to 5 years behind the rest of India. So I think this project, what it can do to the whole city is amazing, but also this immediate neighborhood and surroundings, the way it can regenerate is very important. So the project itself, the site was 13.5 acres. The project was 250,000 square feet of built-up area. The site is half a kilometer long. It sits along Bailey Road, which is the main street of Patna. And the building itself is 300 meters long. So the idea was of a sprawling campus and not an iconic building. It was more to see it as city blocks within the urban scale. So the widest part, if you see the model at the bottom, the widest part of the site is given to the main galleries. The central part, which is kind of to help people to orient and calm themselves down, is the entrance area, which is symmetric in nature. And then the children's galleries are the extrovert in nature, along with their garden. And then there's parking beyond to the right. So here the zoning is, the brown color is essentially the galleries, which take up the largest program. That's the entrance area. That's the children's gallery with a complete service spine at the back. And this green zone is what we call the collection storage, which is the highest security area. So it's primarily organized on a ground plus one structure, with only the administration tower, which we call, which has 4 levels. So it's mainly a ground plus one structure. The entrance was kept purposely away from 2 busy nodes on either side of this. There's one node there and one node here, just to kind of, because the kind of activity that happens around entrances in India is very evident. So I could keep the impact less on the rest of the city. It was intentionally kept away from the 2 busy nodes. This is the entrance area, which is symmetric in nature. Lots of people come in. It needs to calm them, orient them, help them to understand where they need to go and what they need to do. So that's a large 25 meter by 25 meter canopy under which people can arrive. And then when one gets into the main lobby, it's very important for this to be scaled correctly. Sometimes there are few people there, maybe 4, 5, 10, 15 people, but at times there are hundreds and thousands of people in that space. So how does that space feel appropriate, scaled, even when it's crowded or it's individual? I think that's very important. Here you see the 2 main public spaces of the multi-purpose hall and the restaurant on either side, on left and right, with a skylight and a courtyard that has a design feature or water body. These are the 2 large multi-purpose hall spaces and the cafe spaces, which are 25 by 25 meter grid. The multi-purpose hall is completely worked on with maple wood on the inside. And then the lobby that leads to the children's museum, the children's gallery, where we introduce the material of terracotta and a wooden deck. That's a courtyard on the left, which has a wooden deck. And then the children's gallery itself. This is the exhibition design is by Lord Cultural Resources from Toronto. So that's not part of our work, but what we've done is created the space for that. And then this connects out to the children's garden outside, which is landscape, is intensely landscaped with a parking beyond the courtyard wall. And then when one comes back to the main gallery, this is towards the reception. This is the view looking towards the galleries. So I think what's unique in this museum is the number of courtyards it has. It's got 7 courtyards, and I think that's a very conscious effort to give it the Indianness because of the climate, the kind of light quality is controlled. Also the sound in Patna, the sound is very tremendous. So each of these courtyards has a different geometry. If the geometry comes around either by desire, which is like there are 2 courts which are very symmetric in nature, but otherwise, so that one's a symmetric, and this one, but other ones come about from the geometry of the site, where we're just taking the building footprints and aligning them as per our requirements. But what this has done is created courtyards of different material, giving an opportunity to create different materials and create a different space within each courtyard. So this is the amphitheater courtyard, which has actually people can come in here, and this is a non-ticketed zone. It can be for events, and it has again a very loose geometry which comes around from the buildings around it. But then this is the Buddha courtyard, which is part of the exhibition sequence, and then it's completely white from inside. So by the way, the building is clad in corten steel and granite on the outside, and corten steel here was used very intentionally as a symbol of Bihar's metallurgical expertise. The Ashoka pillar comes from this region, and for its past richness, it's got huge resources of iron ore as well, which was Jharkhand, and now it's gone into Jharkhand. But besides that, it also shows India's current strength in the steel industry. So that was a very intentional way of using the corten steel on the project. There are more views of the courtyard with the bridge that connects the upper level, the gallery sequence. These are landscape designed Jain Dharup from forethought from Pune itself, and the Japanese landscape company from Osaka. So within this exhibition sequence, there's this large pause space, which we call the lounge, which has a staircase that one can take to go up to the upper level, but it also has kind of a space for an artwork with a nice triple height volume and a skylight. There's also a place where the pause within the gallery sequence, so where one can rest and take some time off. And the galleries themselves are black boxes, so there is no daylight at all. So what we've consciously done throughout is at every gallery you come out into these kind of spaces, which we call the cloister spaces, and they help orient you. You get sense of the passing daytime, and it also keeps you connected with the nature. Besides, this becomes a nice kind of in-between space protecting the main gallery spaces, which need to be 24/7 air conditioned. This was a children's drum before all the exhibits and other things came in. So it's a 35-meter. It's done in concrete. It has a elliptical cutout in the middle. It's literally a concrete roof that's suspended with this ring in the center. The walls are 600 mm thick concrete, just to take the weight of this roof. This is designed by Mahindra Raj. So I think for us, what was most exciting and interesting was the process of construction, where we could work through this period. We had 4 people from our office at the site. They were our eyes and ears, reporting to us in Mumbai and in Tokyo. And it took a lot of our personal time in the last couple of years, not couple, maybe 5 years. And I personally have given it almost 1 week in Patna and rest of the time in the Mumbai office. So I think what's important is if you look back at our practice, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, as Steve Jobs has said. And for us, it's very important that when we look back, the BR Museum and the Mumbai competition, which we did with Steve and all, are products of that kind of a thing. When you're doing the work, you're just working. Also, I would like to end with this statement by B.V. Doshi, which is, nothing in life is by chance, but you always have to make choices and work hard towards them. We are privileged to drive Doshi, our Pritzker laureate, in LA, and take him to see Khan's building. And there on the freeway, he told us, he has an amazing analogy that this isn't driving on this freeway like a life, where you see one opportunity, take it, go another one opens up. And I think life has been very much like that, the way we like to look at it. One has to flow with it and always throws up new challenges, new solutions. When new paths open up and one learns to navigate that. One can only live in the moment and practice an architecture where one does one's best at that given moment. Philosophically, we believe that every space has a karma. Soral spoke of a destiny of a space or destiny of a site. I personally believe that the destiny of a space, every space is going to be what it is. We are just shaping it. There are clients, architects, engineers, workmen, everybody's contributing to it. We just have to do our best at that moment and let time tell whether we are right or wrong. And but that's, I think, another very long discussion which we can have on another occasion. So I'd like to just end with a small video of the BR Museum.
So here there was a government wanting to bring back the ethos of the Bihari people. It was primarily to invoke a self-pride within the people, and that was the main vision that the Chief Minister laid out.
competition itself was set up as a competition for an Indian architect to team up with an international architect who had museum experience. We were given a very complicated program as part of the competition, and the site was quite generous. The surroundings of the site are not particularly large scale. There's also a lot of small independent buildings. So when we consider those conditions together, Mr. Maki thought that the best approach would be, rather than making a singular massive building, would be to divide the building into discrete parts so that each part could respond specifically to its needs, to its program, create a sense of serenity, and create a series of spaces in the building that made it feel like an oasis from the chaos that was surrounding it. And the strategy for doing that, it goes back again to dividing the building into parts and layers within the building of building space and open space and building space and open space. And that's where the whole strategy of building courtyard came into play.
The building is, yes, I will not say it's a regional building, nor is it a contemporary building. So I don't think it's a new vocabulary in that sense, but it's using the Indian ethos of a space where it's modulated through light, through colonnades, and through a sequence of spaces from sunlight to darkness. We've used the kind of brown palette to unify the whole campus. So there is granite at the base, and then there's corten, and that corten repeats at several locations, all through the length of Bailey Road.
The sequence of spaces was very clearly established in the program. And there's an introductory gallery called the pre-show gallery. The exhibition spaces were dictated to be complete black box. There's a secondary pathway called the cloisters, which offers a sense of relief. We thought it was important to have other ways to walk through the building which connect you to the outside, which connect you to natural light. So it's a dual system of circulation that we've set up, one which goes through the galleries internally, and another which is the cloisters, which connects around the building separate from that. As an overall design strategy, I think the project was very successful at achieving not only the government's goals, but the goals that we shared as architects. In the design, Mr. Maki was very conscious of not wanting to make the building too overwhelming, seem too large in the context. So by sloping the building back from the street, that was sort of the mechanism by which we tried to control the overall scale of the building and the feeling of the building within the site.
It's very important for museums to reinvent themselves, especially in this digital age. So it has to become a destination, and you want people to come back. I think the programming is very important, and I think that choice of the multi-purpose hall, a cafe, an auditorium, a store is all part of that. What we see now is people are really using the building. All the galleries aren't even completely open, so I think the numbers which are right now range between 3,000 to 4,000 daily. We see them going up to 6,000 to 7,000 very easily.
It must be appreciated not only by client users but also by general public. In this sense, the building must be timeless, because time will be a final judge of buildings.
You know, depending on the time of day you're here, it's changing in the different seasons. It's changing depending on what's going on in the courtyard. I think that creates desire to come back here again and again. And I think that that's an important aspect in the museums moving forward and trying to maintain their relevance. It's not just a place you go once, it's a place you go over and over. And maybe it's just a place you come with your family to spend a day or to spend a weekend.